Hi, this is the WayOut series. It is a collection of testimonies and revelations that can help you in your own healing journey. This is an online training on renewing the mind, inner healing, based on the way that's already behind me. This is not a few-step program. It is an encouragement and tools from someone on the way out to others on the way out. I believe that what meant a turning point for me will become yours as well. Have a great way out. Hi, it's the sixth session of the WayOut series. In the last session I was talking about how I was going on my healing journey after I decided that I'm gonna get healed, and how I struggled with relating to the truths, and how I collected all the truths, and how I reminded myself of those truths, and all these confession kind of things. And parallel to this season, maybe a bit after this season, I had another aspect, and this is my relationship with God. My whole channel is about that. Like, I always talk about this thing, and the testimony of my life series is just about that. I only talk about how my relationship with God evolved throughout my life. So if you're interested in that, you can watch that series. In that series, I only talk about emotional health and renewing the mind and inner healing and that kind of stuff. But I think we cannot miss the aspect of the relationship with God. It was crucial for me, so I'm gonna talk about it. I think I couldn't have the freedom I have without this, so I must share this aspect to my journey. If you don't believe in Jesus, maybe you can still relate to what I'm talking about. If you believe like in love or in unconditional love or a higher awareness, or like something that has created all things, or someone, maybe you can relate to what I talk about. I talk about Jesus because I'm a Christian and I experienced him, so that's the reason why I approach it, and I'm gonna talk about it like this. But if you are not a Christian, maybe you can still relate to what I'm talking about. So, I lived in a dormitory in Budapest. I was studying arts, and also I was preparing for my interpreter and translator exam, and I was very busy. I remembered at this time that once I had been closer to God, I had a better relationship when I was like 12. And I remembered that I was feeling better back then. Like, there was something good about that season when I was in better terms with God. And I was like, maybe I should go back there. Maybe I should just have the same closeness with God again. And I had this idea that if I have this exam done, then I will have time and attention to spend time with God again. And this was the only exam in my entire life that I failed. Of course, it was an impossible exam. Like, people who had 5 years of experience in what I had zero experience of failed as well. So it was like I had no chance, but it still bothered me that I failed it, because in every other case I felt like God was like supporting me, even if it was impossible. He just led me through it, and I was like, why didn't he do that at this time? And I was miserable, and I was angry, and I was crying, and all of that. And I was also sad for having my plans destroyed. Like, I had this idea that after that I can hang out with God more, and I can get better even through that. That was my idea. I was thinking about relationship with God as a tool to get better, which is not a lie. Completely. So I had this idea that I should still cling to my plans. Like, I failed this exam and everything is like, I decided it's just all over the place, but I don't care. I'm gonna still be with God. And it was the best decision of my whole life. Like, and what you need to think about is not something like a whole hour of devotion or whatever. Like, it was like I was studying 8 to 10 hours a day after school, and when I was totally tired and exhausted, I went down to the basement of the dormitory and I spent 10 long minutes with God. Which meant I was listening to some worship music, or I was reading some kind of text, maybe Bible, maybe some Christian stuff. So there wasn't much going on, but I was like, here you have these 10 minutes, and if you want to do something with it, I'm here. And that was the key. Like, I made myself available to him at least for 10 minutes. And most of the time, nothing happened. Like, literally nothing. Maybe I felt a little bit better afterwards. And then I tried it out, what happens when I spent half an hour with it, or maybe 2 hours. So I started to raise the bar because I was curious what would happen. And even if nothing happened at those times, like just listening to music and reading some interesting stuff, like nothing really special, I felt like there is a side effect to it. Like, I have more power to do anything after it. Like, I feel I have more power to say no to things that I felt no power to say no to before. Like, all these lies and thinking patterns that I was trying hard to break could be broken like quite quickly. Not like everything had been perfectly restored by the time I started to spend time with God, but there were like these little struggles with certain thoughts, and I felt like I have power to say no. All of a sudden I felt like I am ruling over those issues that previously held me captive. So I felt like, okay, there's a cool side effect to it, so I'm gonna continue doing that. And recently we call that with my friends afterglow, like when you spend time with God and even after that you feel good for a while. So that was going on. I started to enjoy those times more and more. Like, I got addicted to it. And every now and then I started to feel like a great joy in those times. Like at one time I was just laughing without any particular reason for a long time in the basement, and people thought I was watching something funny because I had my laptop in front of me. They didn't know that I was listening to the same song on repeat like for the 100th time or something. So this Time with God thing started to get really good after a few months. And you know, I had this idea that there is no turning back for me, so I'm gonna go down the road of healing. So if that helps me, then let's do that. And this power thing made me curious, like, okay, like all the things I know I should change in my mind, and all the things like I know that I'm not created to be, all of the sudden I feel the power to live them. And after a while I felt like God was talking in those times, and generally like I felt like God was talking to me, and he became my internal therapist. I never had a therapist, and I don't say that it is a wrong thing to have a therapist. I think it could have helped me a great deal back then, but it didn't happen like that. So he was just convincing me of things like, oh, you are free not to think like that. You are not created for that. It is just a lie. It is just glasses that you look through. It is not how the things really are. And he just started to convince me of who I am and who I'm not. There were things that I thought they are part of my personality, and God just convinced me slowly but surely that, okay, this is not part of my personality, and I should just consider it a lie and just enjoy my authority that I'm free not to think like that and react like that. To give you an example, I thought that I hate hanging out with people. Like, I'm just not a people person, and they stress me, and I feel like I'm worthless when I hang out with them, and I just don't want to be with them. And I thought it was part of my personality. This is who Avi is. Like, he hates hanging out with people. He's a shy and reserved girl. He's just like that. We need to accept it as a part of her personality. And God just told me that this is a nice idea, but that's not true. Like, this is not a personality trait. If it was your personality trait, you would enjoy not being with people, but you feel angry about it, you feel abandoned, you feel lonely, you feel like you're not at your place. So if it was part of your personality, it would feel natural to you, but you feel bad about it. So maybe you feel bad about it because you are trying to do something that is against against who you really are, who I created you to be. So if you feel bad about this, you are probably not made like that. You are made to shine and enjoy the company of people, and that's why you feel bad about when you flee from people and you try to convince yourself that it is part of your personality. And it was a huge thing. Like, this was a crucial part of my identity, that I'm a reserved shy girl who hates people. Like, that was me, I thought. So it was hard to let go of it. It's just an example, but there were many of those issues. And there were issues when I thought something doesn't belong to me, and God convinced me that it does belong to me. For example, I lived under pressure and performance and striving my whole life because I'm a perfectionist and maximalist, and I'm basically unbearable even for myself. Like, I can drive myself crazy with that. I love to do things the best possible quality in the highest amount. So it's just the worst combination, but that's how I am. And I was like, I hate this. It causes me so much trouble. This must be a lie. I'm gonna eliminate it from my life. And I was working hard on it, and then God said, this is part of your personality. Like, the stress is not part of your personality. The pressure is not. The striving is not. But the fact that you enjoy good quality things, that you love when something is well done, and you love accomplishing things and doing them well, and things like that, it is something I created you to be. And don't try that hard to change that, because that's something I want you to be like. So there were many of those things when God just convinced me who I am and convinced me who I'm not. And I wasn't very well, I wasn't doing well about like deciding which is which. So it was great that I had this internal therapist in my mind who could tell me. But I think a real therapist can be helpful in that as well. The most crucial part of hanging out with God was this power. This I can't really describe it as power, but I just try to find a name for it. It's an unknown factor. It's like, you know the things, you understand yourself, you understand what you should do, and you still don't have the strength for it. Have you ever been there? I think all of us have been there. When you know, you see through it all, you see through a certain issue, and you still don't have the strength, the power, the authority, whatever you name it, to change it. And that's something that typically happens when you spend time with God. You receive this power. It's not like you receive, it's in you. Like, the fullness of God is within you, but you tap into it, you realize it, you know it, you become aware of it, you start to enjoy it, you discover it, and it means a lot whether you know how much God you have in yourself. It matters how much you are aware that there is this God in you, there is this power in you. And first, there is some time and attention required to discover it. At least it happened like that to me. And after a while it becomes natural. Like now I'm like, oh, I don't need to think like that, and I know that I have the power not to think like that. But first I wasn't aware of that power, and it happened in my time with God, meditating, worshiping, sitting in silence, just hanging out with God in whatever manner, that I started to become aware of this power and discover it and enjoy it. And in those times, God just gave me like these visions and experiences. Most of the exercises we do in this series are exercises that have happened to me in some way. Of course, I give a little bit of structure to it. It happened very spontaneously to me. There is a bit of structure to it, but these are all inspired from my time with Jesus. So he gave me all kinds of games and situations and visions that could help me realize my freedom, and it changed me a great deal. So there were two aspects to my time with God. He was convincing me of the truth. He was just revealing to myself what I think wrong, how we can change that, how I can act differently, when did I believe a lie, how much my vision is distorted by those lies, and how my freedom can look like. And so there was a knowledge side to it. And I think if you have a therapist, if you have a good book, they can all help you with that knowledge of the truth. But no one can actually help you from the outside with the power to be able to live that truth. So it only comes from God that is in you. Like, no one from the outside can give you that power. You can gain knowledge from the outside, but you can't gain power to live that knowledge from the outside. So in my time with God, that's where I realize things. That's when I become aware of the truth. So even the knowledge part happened in my time with God. But I think even if you have a therapist or anyone to help you through your journey, you can't avoid discovering, like, you can't skip this point of discovering that God within you that is powerful to do those things that has to be done, that is able to change things that has to be changed, who is able to bridge those gaps you have between what you experience now and what you know that you should be experiencing. And in those times, God was just like convincing me of His love. Like, that was the most that was the biggest thing about my time with Him. Like, we had this dynamic to our relationship that He would just love on me and make sure I can't fail, and make sure I'm safe and unconditionally loved. And then He would just attack a lie in my head. And when I felt like really uncomfortable and I started to feel like I'm not really loved, then he just went back on loving me. And when I was ready, that I would tell him that, okay, now we can go a bit farther with the healing. Then he would come and continue the destruction of lies. So he's really nice and compassionate and attentive about healing. He doesn't have this agenda that I have this plan for your healing and I'm gonna push you through it no matter how you feel. Like if you feel like, oh, it's too fast for me, I can't keep up, he's like, okay, I can sit down next to you in your prison cell, I'm gonna still enjoy your company, it's all okay for me. So he's not like, oh, we must do that by this time and please hurry up. Many times we are so identified with the lies we have in our heads that it is us, we feel like that. And when we feel like God is against this lie, we feel like, oh, maybe he's against me. And then he's like, okay, just stop it right now. I don't want you to believe that I'm against you. I want you to be completely aware how much you are loved. So if you want to keep that lie, you can have it. Okay, I'm gonna stop this process. I'm gonna just love on you till you give me permission again to deal with the stuff in your head. Many times we are like, when we realize the love of God, we think like there is no such a thing as the wrath of God or the anger of God. And I think there is such a thing that can be called the wrath of God, but that is not against you, and it is not even against bad people. It's against the lies and false identities that destroy us. Like, God really wants to destroy the thing that destroys us. Like, he is really furious about those things. He is never furious against us. He has no fury against us. We think about the wrath of God as like we can drive God really mad. And when he's fed up, he's gonna take revenge and just give it to us. He would never do that. He's always loving. But if we give permission to him to destroy all the lies and bad thinking patterns and trauma in our heads, he is willing to do that, and he does it quite wildly and aggressively. Of course, for him to do that, we need to detach from those lies. Like, if it is me, then I would feel like he's against me when he attacks the lies. But if I realize that it is just a stupid lie, this is not who I am, here it is, you can destroy it, then he can come and with all of his fury and destroy it. And in that sense, the fury of God is a joyful thing. Like, it is not against me, it is not against anything, it is anyone, it is against the thing that made my life miserable. Like, I'm happy that he's destroying that. And yeah, many times it's something massive. Like, when I give him permission to do that, he can be massive about it, and he can really tell me that, oh, this is not who you are. Like, and most of the time he does it like very mildly, and he's always doing it in the safe place. Like, making sure that I know that I'm loved in every way. For example, I had this thing throughout my childhood that I'm worthless, and everyone else knows that I'm worthless, and that's why they reject me. And God just showed me that this is not true. Like, this is not why the people react the way they react to you. They just don't pay enough attention. They are busy with their lives. They don't really... They are not really aware of what is going on. They are not obsessed with your healing process. They are not your therapist. They are not angels. Like, they are just ordinary people. They won't rearrange everything so that you can get healed. But they are also not directly against you. But because in your childhood you felt like you're rejected at kindergarten and places like that, you started to have these glasses of rejection, and you perceive all the happenings in your life through those glasses, and that's just not how things happen. What you perceive is not the truth. It's the truth distorted through your glasses, and you need to get rid of those glasses, and you need to change your mind about that. And in that sense, God is like quite like harsh, but he does it like slowly. Like, he didn't tell me the way I was telling it to you. He was doing it in the span of few months or something. Like, I can't demonstrate it because then this series will take way much more time than it does. But he was just like pulling out lies one by one, like a castle made of cards, and you pull out cards and it's still standing but weaker, and it gets weaker, and at one point you pull out the crucial card and the whole building collapses. That's the same what God does with lies. Like, he's pulling out one by one, and then he just pulls out the last one, and the whole construct of a stronghold, a bad thinking pattern of inner brain collapses. So, it can be slow. We can feel like it is slow, but it's not slow. Like, I feel like I'm starting to hang out with God, and I already spent like 2 weeks spending time with God, and nothing really seems to happen. And it felt the same with me. After half a year, I felt like, have I changed? Maybe I did. But looking back from the perspective of years, I'm like, that was the turning point. Like, I wasn't aware of it, but that was the point when everything shifted in my life. So you are not really able to track how much actually happens when you hang out with God, when you give him time and attention, but I can guarantee you that it is life-changing. At first, it can feel strange. I can't give you a 5-point method how you can spend time with God. You can start with 10 minutes. It's quite reasonable. Or half an hour. Or 1 hour. It doesn't really matter how you start. You can't mess it up. Like, I made all the mistakes possible and I'm still here. So you cannot really make it wrong. You can start with 10 minutes or whatever. You can sit in complete silence, listening to some instrumental music, listening to worship, read some text, read Bible, read something that is full of truth. I can't really tell you that. Do whatever you feel like doing. Just make yourself available to him. It's like 10 minutes of giving him permission to do whatever he wants to do. And it worked so well. It was so effective when we spent like hours worrying and with bad imagination and rethinking lies over and over again and going down the spiral of our negative memories and perception and glasses. And it was effective. It had a fruit to it. Like, we were giving those thoughts authority. We gave our agreement, and look where we ended up. Like, it was effective. We gave it permission, and it had its result. And the same way, you can give your agreement and permission to God to do what He wants to do, to put His ideas into your head, and it will have the fruits as well. Like, the same way it was effective the other way, the same way it will be effective too. Actually, let me tell you, it is way much more effective in the positive way. Like, I've given like 10 minutes and it changed my life. Like, I spent like 5 years meditating on lies, and 10 minutes changed my life when I gave it to God. So it is way much more effective in the bad way, in the good way. So all I can say is that a lot can happen when you spend time with God, and it is worth trying it. First, it will feel unnatural, maybe painful, because you are so used to going down hills that it's an effort to change it and go up hills. Like, first, we are so used to the unnatural that it seems natural to us, and to go the healthy way feels like unnatural. And yes, it takes a little bit of effort when we are shifting things. So first, when you start to spend time with God, it's like, oh, am I wasting my time? Nothing actually happens. But in the long run, it is worth it. It is a place where He can like reveal stuff to you, who you are not, why you think what you think, when you started to believe lies, what your freedom looks like, and how you can live it. And so He has an amazing knowledge. Like, He designed you. He knows how you work. Like, He knows the manual for you, and He knows the way you can function that is not against the way you are designed. And yes, He understands that, and He demonstrates it. Like, He is all you are, without twistedness, without brokenness. Like, your original identity is him. So when you are hanging out with him, you get to learn who you really are. And you also become aware and discover and start to enjoy the power and authority to be able to live all the things that you realize. So I don't think you can skip this part of like realizing the God within you and enjoying him and spending time with him and get to know him. And I know the way I was talking about it was very impersonal. I was talking about relationship with God as some mental health hack, like something like a tool to your inner healing. And it is a tool to your inner healing, a very effective one. But when you start hanging out with him, he's just so kind and so nice and so lovable that you're gonna fall in love with him, and you won't even care about your healing journey and what is going on and how am I gonna get rid of this and that. You're gonna actually abandon it to him, like, okay, you take care of my healing or whatever regarding myself. I'm just gonna be with you because I love you. That's what is going to happen to you as well. God bless you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was a blessing for you. This course is completely free of charge. However, the production and editing has a cost, and I wanted to produce this series in the best possible quality and make it available to everyone absolutely free on YouTube. So if you feel led to, please contribute with any amount to the production costs. All the donation options and the payment methods are available in the description.